we're going to relieve the fuel pressure. This is something that should have been done really before you started. You disconnect the fuel pump relay and then crank the engine so it relieves the fuel pressure. But I just forgot to do it, so I'm going to hook up my gauge here. If I can get it on. I have to remove this coil. So now I'll hook my gauge up to it. Doesn't seem like there's any pressure in it. This little valve with a screw and see if fuel comes out. Nope, no fuel. So there's no pressure in it. Okay, next we're going to remove the fuel rail bolts. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. See through. Always make sure things are the same length when you take them out. Next we're going to unplug each fuel injector because we're going to remove the fuel rail. Okay, so now we're going to remove the supply line to the fuel rail. It's right there. I'm going to use my special tool. I made a video about removing fuel lines, so it's the same thing. I just can't get you back here. So to get to this screw, I have to remove this vacuum line. Alright, so now fuel rail with the injectors should come off after I disconnect this electrical connector. There we go. And there it goes. Alright, so now we have to drain the cooling system. I have a pan under there, and on the radiator, on this side, there's a petcock. You just turn it with your hands, it opens the valve, and it drains all the coolant out. So I'm going to do that now. Perfect. Alright, so we're just about done draining. Okay, so now we're ready to remove the rest of the bolts and take the lower intake manifold off. Oh. Actually, before we take that off, there's a hose back here I want to take off. It's one of the heater hoses. So we got these guys, or this guy right here. There we go. Now the seal's broken. Should be able to take it off by hand.
Whoa, whoa, there it goes.
There it goes. Now we can take the lower intake off. Bolts out. Looks like these two front ones are longer than the two back ones. Oh, and there's a little coolant temp sensor connector plugged in right here. I'm going to remove this radiator hose down here. Let's take these gaskets out.
What?
Look.
Ooh.
And I think the other one's broken too. Yep.
Oh, that is satisfying.
This guy's wow.
Whoa!
There we go, it's coming off. So the gasket is broken in a bunch of spots. So that's what was causing the problem. Alright, so I cleaned all the mating surfaces off the heads and the intake manifold. So now I'm going to install the gaskets. So keep it going. Just like that. Put the intake on, it goes in this way. These two longer ones went in the front, remember? So we'll just thread these down. The two back ones went in the back. Alright, so I'm going to install a fuel rail, but first I'm going to lubricate each of the O-rings with some Vaseline so it slides into the block, or into the heads easy. Okay, now we're going to put the fuel rail on, and they should slide in relatively easy because of the Vaseline. And get them all started in their holes, and then just gently push and wiggle so they go in. So now we're going to install the fuel rail bolts. Okay, so we're going to install all these. Okay, so now we need to torque it to spec. If you look at this diagram here, it shows you the sequence that you need to tighten everything in. And it says do it in steps. So I'm just going to set the torque wrench to a setting that's below the spec, tighten them all to that setting, and then do that a couple times until I get to the max spec that it says here, which is 250 inch-pounds. Okay, so like I said, we're going to tighten them in sequence, and we're going to do it a few times. So the torque spec is 250 foot-pounds, but we're going to do it first to 120, and then 200, and then 250. So we're going to go through 3 rounds of tightening. And those numbers are arbitrary. You just want to just do it a few times. You're going to look here, number 1 is this one right here. So we're going to tighten this. Now 2 is this one. You want to try not to use extensions because they steal torque. You get a not as accurate reading. 3 is right above it. 4 is right here. 5 is down here. 6, 7, and finally 8. Okay, so now I'm just going to do that again, another time at 200 foot-pounds, and then finally at 250, and then that'll be it for that. But I'm not going to show that because it's really the same thing. Okay, so it's all torqued up. I'm going to reattach the coolant temp sensor, and I'm going to reattach the upper radiator hose. Okay, I'm going to reconnect all the fuel injectors.